Welcome into Dynasty Mode. This is the unofficial EA Sports College Football Game podcast. My name is Arky Shea. That is Demetri Ravanos. Demetri, this show is about to start with some news. Are you ready for this?
I am ready. I also enjoyed you lassoing it up to open the show today.
That's why you get the YouTube version to see the lasso. Whoop, whoop. I'm a cowboy, baby. Something with Josie. Okay, so here's the thing. We do want to make an announcement that there is something about the future of the show you should know. It is that it is bright, baby! Bright future going on with this show. But we are moving the date that the episode drops coming up in a few weeks. So this will drop on Tuesdays starting on July the 12th.
Arky, right? Why July the 12th?
Well, so, Demetri, that's a great example of what I call an interesting question.
Thank you.
One that is relevant to the conversation. It has seemed over the last 5 or 6 droppings of this here video game.
Sure, it's books.
There were some early adjustments with how the video game was dropped. In fact, I think the first video game dropped in August, for example. Going forward, it did drop in June, but as you know, it sort of found its groove in July for like the last 12 or 13 of them, and it found itself into the second Tuesday in July. For I think it's the last 5, maybe 6. I wrote that down somewhere. It's not in this particular set of notes. But we are anticipating that basically will be
a year to the day
from when we think the game's going to release.
All right, very good.
That's what we're thinking. Within a year, the second Tuesday of next July, if EA keeps on with its track of what it's done with the college football game in the past, we're expecting a second Tuesday in July drop. It clearly won't be the 12th, but also, Tuesdays are when most new games drop anyway, right?
Is that still the case now that everything is
it's a lot
downloadable?
Of the
case. It feels like things are just coming out whenever.
Well, true, but it's not like EA's putting out the new FIFA at like 3:30 in the morning on a Friday,
right?
They're like, hope you guys see it. It's still sort of, I think, embraced as sort of the date the games drop. Although things probably have changed to a certain degree, but I'd be interested in what people say. Comment here on the where you point down on the screen. Do comments. Keep doing those things. Also, Demetri, I have big news. Big news before we get to the show. Okay.
Okay.
Do you see what's right here, right behind me? I'm about to pull it in front of you.
Is that a shoebox?
It is a box. You got the second part right.
Okay.
Demetri, I got a call this week from a head coach at an FBS institution that was ready to take me aboard under his wing.
Very good. And which side of the ball are you coaching these days?
Well, Demetri, that is what this big reveal is about to be about. Because in this box, I was sent at a 30% off coupon rate.
Yes, go on.
A hat. Well, that's part of the perks about being the new guy, right?
Sure.
After a couple of years, I think you said after 2 years, I get 50% off merchandise. And then after 5 years, 65%.
Congratulations. What a good investment.
I think it is. So inside this box is the hat that I purchased for a deep discount. You can't get anywhere else for this new institution. So I'm about to make the big reveal. It is unopened, as you can see, Demetri. I'm afraid to put it on one side because it has my address on it, and I don't.
Can I give the people some incentive to go to the YouTube page?
Please do.
Okay, Arky, this is my suggestion to you. Open it, put it on, don't say anything.
Don't say
and then at the end of the episode, we will say what school it is that is on the hat. Okay, assuming you did not go to the NFL.
Yeah, well, I'll give you this. I already said it was an FBS institution, so.
Oh, fair.
Okay, and you mean if I don't go to the NFL by the end of the episode?
Right.
Okay, got you. All right, so I'm taking my handy dandy knife, not knife. It's scissors to be more accurate. Accuracy is what I prefer in this. And again,
can I just ask a question here?
Sure. Well, I'll keep opening while you do that.
Yeah. Why the unboxing? Why not just put the hat on?
I wanted to share this with my fam. Like, you are my fam.
Sure.
I am fam with people who are on this. I think I broke something. Fam who are on here, watching us on the YouTubes, as well as a member of, what I call Dynasty Mode Nation.
Sure.
By the way, I've looked at the stats every now and then, and like we've gone in like 7 different countries. There's only a handful of states we haven't gotten to. By the way, what's up, Idaho? Come on now.
Idaho. You know what? It's the bitterness over losing the Vandals from the next game.
It has to be, right? It has to be. Although in the game I'm going to play, they are still very much a part of this.
Yeah.
So, Demetri, are you ready?
I'm ready.
You're about to see this.
Do not say it.
Else, but I won't say it. I'll just wear it for the rest of the show. Here we go. All right. Take my gear off for a second. Put this around, and it is now on. Can you see what this is? Do I need to step forward?
Nobody could see what that is.
Nobody can see. I go a little forward.
There it is. Oh, looking good, Arky.
Okay. Now I'm sitting back down.
By the way, without giving anything away, it is a very common nickname in college sports.
Common?
Is that the dumbest version of that particular mascot?
Well, to be fair, again, this was I got 35% off the discount rack.
No. I'm not. This has nothing to do with you or with. Oh gosh, would it have to do with the school or would it have to do with the apparel brand? Who do you think put that together?
As a freshly hired member of this institution, I am not interested in the defamation of the mascot. Okay, at this point, in fact, I'm going to defend this mascot at one point, but it would give it away at this point. So let's just move on to the show. How about that, huh?
All right, let's do it.
All right, so this show is all about recruiting in the college football game and sort of a little bit of the history of it, but more what we would like to see, what things have gotten right and wrong, mainly wrong most recently. But there was a sweet spot in when this thing was racking for NCAA football. So I am shocked. And maybe it's because time is a major, major, major B word. Butthole. Sorry, I said it. Okay, we're now going to get an explicit rating. But I was not aware till I went back and sort of played with some of the, the fun word of the show is the emulators, that in-season recruiting, definitely the beginning of the depth of recruiting didn't start until EA Sports made a huge investment in Dynasty mode in this game for NCAA 2006.
Yeah, that sounds right. Because I remember playing, was it the 2000 version or the 99 version where recruiting was basically just pick your guys. That was sort of what recruiting was. In the beginning,
essentially got to replenish what you lost as far as graduation. And then, I know in 2001, like you would get to see where, and I missed this part where you would get to see where your players that were good that went to the NFL, like where they would get drafted. You'd be like round 4, like you wouldn't see the team, but you see like the round 4.
Yeah, I mean that continued all the way to the end.
Did it? I don't even remember NCAA 14, to be honest with you. I know guys left. I don't remember seeing where they got drafted though.
It continued all the way to the end. Now it became less of a I guess focus on the draft and more like here is who all you're losing, and it would say, Jeff Jones, quarterback rating, and then it would say either graduated, transferred, or drafted. It would give you his position.
But it would give you the position he was drafted in the draft?
Yeah, like it would say round. Did it say pick? I don't think it said pick. I think it just gave you the round he went in.
Now I do know that like at one point I think I remember being like, hey, this guy was like a first round or something, but I didn't know it went all the way. I have to go back and play with it. I'm about to find out, Demetri,
sure.
Hopefully I can get some of my guys drafted, and I'm about to find out hardcore what these guys are going on. But listen, I got a lot of work to do with that coming up. So anyway, so NCAA 06 is when EA Sports put a lot of money into the game, and they really overhauled a lot with this game. That's when you got your pretty cool soundtrack that you like.
I do.
The one and only, Hesher Bedroom, a college station that you got. And you got a huge update in Dynasty mode, which included in-season recruiting. But do you remember an in-season recruiting back then? You essentially got like the ability to target like 12 dudes or something, and you had like 100 points to spend every single week, and you would find out about some pitches, but you couldn't choose the pitches until you actually had them for the visit. So you had a pretty decent, especially if we had never had it before. It was a pretty cool feature at the time, but it was really rudimentary compared to what we're about to find out in just a couple of years.
So that is the thing that like I struggle with a little bit, because you say you think the recruiting was bad near the end, and I do. I want to.
I think it's worse. Not bad, just worse than what it was. Like,
worse.
I think there's a peak in here that we'll talk about. That thing was just magnifico.
Okay. But I would argue that it was just lessened. I don't think it was necessarily worse. I think that, and this is my concern for the new game. There are certainly things I want to see, right? You want to see being able to flip recruits. You want to see some version of like an elaborate announcement video, that kind of thing. But at the same time, I don't want it to take an hour and a half to get through a week. So as it evolved to what it was in the 2014 game, where like, it's just, hey, 250 points to this guy this week. We'll reset it next week if we have to. I was kind of okay with that. Now, you're right. You do lose some of the story element to it.
You do.
But for practical gameplay, I thought it was the right move.
Well, you're also talking to a guy where literally like the only mode I'm really interested at all in with these games for the most part is Dynasty mode.
Oh, sure.
And so like I'm interested in building my team, whatever it takes now. And I'm mentally like I'm completely there. So if it takes me an extra 25, 30 minutes to sort of get through the recruiting plus the game, you had another 15, 20 minutes on if you're doing like 5-minute quarters or something like that, then I don't mind an hour for an entire one week and one game. Because again, I'm looking at it from like the long haul standpoint. Like I'm here for a long time. So I'm not here for a good time. I'm here for the long time. I know that's not the way the phrase goes, but it adheres for this.
I hear you, and I understand where you're coming from. I will point out to you, you have not played a new version of the game while a father yet.
No, that is 100% true. No, I do. I do. I plan. I'm guessing a lot of this will be while the child is asleep, like especially at the beginning, because when the new game comes out next year, this guy will be going on 3 years old. So I'm guessing somewhere after 9 or 10 will be the time where I can sneak in an hour or two of gameplay before bed, maybe 3 or 4, or maybe just don't go to bed.
I will tell you, at around age, actually, he's probably the perfect age. Like between age 3 and 5, it is very easy to convince your kid, like, you can't possibly have more fun than watching dad play video games. Like, what else could you want out of life?
I saw a photograph of an idea I want to try with the kiddo, which is I want to play the game, but give them a disconnected controller next to me.
Oh, I did that with my son all the time.
Yeah, that's what I'm excited to do. Just like, here you go. We're going to play together, my friend.
I had one PS3 controller that was just dead. Like, no matter how much I charged, it would never turn on. And that became Aaron's controller. And as far as Aaron was concerned, he was a big part of all of our victories.
What do you mean as far as he's concerned? He was right there alongside.
Yeah, that's true.
He's just as much part of the victory as Nick Saban's pullback guy is, right? Or more importantly, Kirby Smart's pullback guy, right? So, which is probably Scott Cochran at this point. But
that's you got to think we're going to get back coaches, right?
I wonder what the line is going to be drawn as far as how in depth this is going to be, right?
Yeah,
because we've also seen like the rules say you can't have, that you can't get on the field. So pullback coaches have been a little less sort of needed, and there's been a less emphasis on them when you talk about the broadcast. So I wonder if some of the rules have pulled back the need for that. I want to here. So 06 was clearly
just make a note for a future episode. We'll walk out get back guy mode on the game.
Okay. Get back guy mode. Okay. So 06 was clearly a banner season, or banner
the best
because
version
of
this game.
Right. I think we got a couple of real peaks in this recruiting. One starts the very next year in 07, which is when you could start calling recruits.
Right.
And that is when you could start, like you could have an assistant call them. You could call them. You could do the in-home visit. You could do the quote "send the house," where basically the entire athletic department went and sort of went to the kid's house and was sort of like, "I'm here," to try to overwhelm and recruit them. But I think that because that in 07 they introduced the being able to call, therefore introducing the ability to give specific pitches, I think you started a real downhill in a good way because you got the momentum going downhill. You started a real downhill roll for this feature for the next couple of years, and I love the fact that they saw in season recruiting, they saw it was going to be a popular item, and they kept adding on to it. And this was a very good feature to get us to the next couple.
Yeah, I agree. I think that if you think about what are the evolutions they didn't do, because they played it out, they pulled it back. The things we haven't seen that are realistic. We already mentioned flipping recruits. We already mentioned elaborate videos. One thing that would be really interesting to see, and I guess maybe on especially the PS1, maybe even into the PS2 and Xbox versions of the game. I can understand why you would not see recruiting rankings change, but that does seem like a thing that should be in the next evolution of this game, right? Like you could find, certainly by the end, I remember you could do your investigation on a kid and determine whether or not he was a bust, whether or not he was a diamond in the rough. Did the recruiting service have him mislabeled basically? But it didn't change, right? Like if you had a guy that was rated a 62 and then you go and do your due diligence on him and he comes back a 71, he doesn't change from a 3-star to a 4-star. I wonder
right.
if that is an evolution we might see.
No, you're right. You're right. I feel like it would have to be, right? Like if you could change if you could flip a guy, you should be able to sort of see the more, especially when like you start to see these spark ratings come out for these players where they just went to like this combine that I never got invited to, or they just put these numbers out there for these kids. Like it feels like that should be able to adjust also as the season and their season, which is, concurrently going on as yours, continues to go forward. So yeah. Absolutely. Because like in the game, it would be able to where like if you, let's say you were I don't know, Toledo, right? And you went after like a kid who was like a 3, maybe a 4-star guy. You could be in the lead, and then Ohio State could get involved,
right?
And then all of a sudden, you go from number 1 to like number 2 at best. But that's also because Ohio State probably saw something, which means their recruiting probably needs to go up too.
One of the things that I think was lost when they simplified the recruiting. Remember that the recruiting cycle after the season used to have multiple weeks to it, right? So you could track if you were way ahead on a guy and then suddenly you didn't get him, you would know or you would see that evolution of whoever the competitor was coming up. The last version of the game, you could have a 2,000 point lead on an opponent and end up that the kid would go to that other school and you never really knew why. So in that sense, I would like to see an extended off-season recruiting added. The question I would have to you is, for the sake of simplicity of gameplay, are you okay with keeping it one recruiting period, even though that's not realistic? Or do you think this game needs to have the dual signing periods?
Oh, yeah, I honestly think that if you could just keep it simple to February, you never saw February, so after the season and then the 5 weeks or something. Yeah, I would say that I want it to be in depth, and I like the early signing period, but like guys can commit to you like as soon as you offer a scholarship anyway.
So it's
not like they're going to flip for the most part, unless they start introducing flipping into the game.
So that is exactly where my question is, because if you introduce flipping into the game, you kind of have to put the early signing day in there to, I guess, secure a particular aspect of the class, but also to sort of know how strong the commitment is. I think that gives you incentive for somebody like you that likes to spend literally an hour to an hour and a half on each week, fine-tuning and adjusting every decision you make. Don't you have to incentivize continuing to pay attention to the kids that have already committed to you?
Or my only other thought that if you're going to not do 2, and that's still the case where you're flipping, that you still have to recruit the kid, right? You still have to spend points on them to sort of, if you see them sort of wavering a little bit, they go from all green loving you to like a little yellow, and you're like, oh, great, I need to show this guy some love. Just say, hey, we're still cool. You can still lose them, and flipping is still a thing. But you don't just get all those points back and then you never have to use them again. You can just take a few points off him because he committed or something like that.
So let me ask you a question. We have not seen a lot of elaborate cutscenes in the later versions of the game. Would you want to see a day when a kid announces his commitment to you? Maybe not signing day, but a day a kid announces his commitment to you. Would you like to see the animation where he is at his high school gymnasium and unzips his tracksuit to reveal your logo?
I think there's a handful of classic ones like that I'm cool with, like picking the hat, the unzipping of the logo of the jacket to get to logo, maybe the Superman idea where you sort of rip open the shirt to reveal
baby animal version of your mascot. Yes or no?
Say again?
Baby animal version of your mascot.
I would like. I'm just not sure we're going to get.
No, that's fair.
If I can set EA, we got to find baby elephants.
Well, no. So here's the thing, right? Like maybe it's a team exclusive animation. Like you scored a touchdown as a Florida Gator, they would do the Gator chomp. Maybe if you're signing with Georgia, maybe you pull out a little baby bulldog.
I could get behind that. I could get behind that. And the bulldog goes for like 30% of the college football mascots anyway, so that works.
That's right. Like off the top of my head, I can think of 4 that it covers.
All right. Well, let me tell you about another major innovation. Look at your screen, Mr. Demetri.
Yes, sir.
And those are on YouTube. If you're on the podcast just listening, check it out on YouTube. This is what we got in 2008.
Oh yes.
This is where we really got in depth, where you could choose campus activities when the guys were coming onto the campus themselves. You had up to 14 pitches, and you had to unlock them, by the way.
Yeah.
To get all of them. You had like 14 pitches that you could give to different student athletes, recruits, who cares, on the game itself. And Demetri, I'm going to add another one on here for you because I think, honestly, the thing about the NCAA 08 version, which is what I'm showing you right now, is that version of this game and that version of recruiting, I think is where I got my nips up. It's because I think when you got the little football animation on the phone, right? And you got the ability to pitch guys on the phone, and you got like the 20 hours you had to choose every single week. I think that was for off season. I think you got like 10 during the season. I think that's when it got really in depth. And for me, that's what makes this game so fun when it comes to this element of it, is that getting super in depth with being able to, because it was also in 2008 where you can make promises.
Right.
So that's when you started making promises to recruits like, I won't recruit another player of your same position for the freshman year, or we'll win all of our rivalry games or something for that year.
I forgot
that was the 08 version.
I forgot that you had to unlock certain pitches and not only certain pitches, but certain campus activities too. Because
and you did that by like keeping your promises, for example.
Yeah. Yeah. So the thing that the only like thing I didn't like about the campus activities is there was no strategy to it. There was no guess or no, like, here's what I've learned to it. They tell you basically, these are the ones you need to do. That was the only thing.
Like, this guy sits very high on academic prestige. Go talk to professors. You know,
right.
Like, okay,
but like you see, put that animation back up again so that people watching on YouTube, remember, you could pick 3 of these. Well, there are 3 that they list clearly more important than everything else. So why would you do anything different?
Well, I think it was 08. It may have been 10, but I think this was where, and I don't think it would have mattered here, but when you could have picked a pitch, and instead of just guessing about it, hard sell it, or hard sell it to people who didn't like it, And sometimes it would change their mind because you were so passionate about it.
Yeah. I would like to see, as those pitches get updated for the 2023 version of the game, I would like to see them start to be, I guess, categorized or named like some of the standard talking points that coaches have, that don't make a 4-year decision, make a 40-year decision. Things like that. Like you
Average
just
starting salary is.
Yeah, like you click that one and you get a little animation of like a little digital Nick Saban telling you, now you have what you want today, but have you thought about your future? Here we're a family.
Oh wait, hold on. I thought that was someone else's.
Oh,
Can
that's
multiple
true.
schools save their families?
Yeah. Multiple schools could say their families. I believe I believe that we're a family actually will be the only pitch available to you if you are the coach at Auburn.
That's news to me.
It's
news to me, but okay. All right, so moving forward, right? That's where I think that is to me the next peak where you got super in depth and specific, because in 2009 not a lot changed. You could get a prospect search where you could say, hey, I want a specific type of quarterback, like quarterback scrambler, right? Like you could sort of get a little assistance recruiting that way. So not a lot changed in 2009, but 2010, I'm clapping, Demetri, because this is where it got real. The introduction of negative recruiting.
Yes.
And they call it competitive recruiting, where you could recruit against the team that was your biggest rival for that player. And let's say that person wanted playing time, but their next best option had like a very low ability to be able, a low grade, like a D grade, to give them early playing time.
Right.
You hard sell the shit out of that. And you say, dude, you could come play for Virginia today. And like that would affect whether or not that recruit would be interested in Virginia over, let's say, Michigan, because you could negatively recruit against your competition. And 2010 is when it happened. And man, that was live, son.
Yeah, that was interesting. And I wonder, this goes back to like 06, right? Where you talk about introducing probation. This is one of those things where like the NCAA knows realistically this stuff goes on, right? But there was only so much of negative recruiting that could be included in the game. I think an evolution that you would want to see is things like, hey, Coach Shea over at Auburn is, he's 65. How long realistically do you think he's going to be there? Like, I want real dirty negative recruiting.
Oh, it would be legitimate if you could go into that. Like, hey, listen, we know Coach Ravanos is he's not interested in staying at FIU right now. He would like to see himself at somewhere else. So is he going to be there for 4 years for you? Like, I mean, come on, man. Like, let's be real.
I'm not here to tell you how to raise your son, but I personally would want someone with a good moral compass leading my son. If he's going to be in this man's care for 4 years. And I don't know. I'm just saying, I've never seen Coach Shea at church on Sundays.
I appreciate the negative recruiting almost always has like a Southern coach aesthetic to it. Like,
absolutely.
That's a vibe. It's never like, like UConn negatively recruiting against someone. Like, it's not like Randy Edsel coming on board and like, you know what Coach Harbaugh doesn't do.
Actually, so I'm glad you bring that up, because there should be like negative recruiting. And this is true in real life, right? Like negative recruiting is this tightrope you walk, right? So if you are going into a home to flip a kid or to before the kid is committed anywhere, you're just talking up your own school and talking about some of the other places he's considering. There should be this section of schools, and it can be based on history. It can be based on how they are performing in your current dynasty. But like, if you negatively recruit against, say, Vanderbilt, that should be a red flag to the player. Like, that should be one of those things where the player's like, he doesn't trust you very much.
Well, first, let me say I know Randy Edsel isn't currently the coach of UConn. Two,
right?
I do think what is interesting is that there is a little bit of that in NCAA 10, which is, you remember you would go to the screen where you would negatively recruit, right? And it'd have all these options, and you could hard sell them, and you would click a button just to start talking to the guy, and you would just talk and talk and talk. But what you would judge is at the top left corner of the screen, which was a cell phone essentially with a little picture of a football guy, a little avatar, and he would be happy green, yellow neutral, or red angry. And that's
I
when you'd be like, all right,
remember the
hang it up,
red
we're good.
angry.
We're good. We're good. Sorry, I didn't mean to make you so mad about coming to my university. Sorry about that.
Yeah, I remember like I think the red angry little football guy stands out in a lot of people's minds. They have very traumatic memories of that animation.
Sure. I only have a couple more things that were like actually notable with NCAA recruiting. In 11, something interesting happened, which is you could spin what was called a quick call, which is you could go talk to someone for like 10 minutes.
Yep.
Or 60 minutes. Every 10 minutes was like a topic that they would go through, but the topics that were being pitched were completely random.
Yeah.
And so it would go to a screen. In fact, I think I have that for you. It would go to a screen at the end of it, and it would look a lot like this. Whether or not you're getting points, but also if you're negatively recruiting, you would get like you would get points. The other team may lose some points, but depending on how important, obviously that topic was to them. So that was where sort of negative recruiting sort of went to based off the quick pitches. But I'll tell you, Demetri, that's sort of, I guess, the loss of the red football man was okay with me. Like, I'm literally like, this was sort of the introduction of the points and the value of like how much, you need to overcome another team by from a statistical standpoint.
Right.
But this is where I think it started to get kind of a little less. Like, I always thought college football was like unique and interesting because it's different than the NFL, and the game was sort of the same way. Like, it was a little gimmicky compared to like the Madden series, just because college football is different. That's what I thought. And this is where it sort of felt like it was a lot more boilerplate, like just numbers and stuff right in front of you when it came to that. And for me, that's where I thought it started to take on less. Not that wasn't a fine feature in 11, and it went on to 12 and definitely 13 before it changed to 14. Maybe it was 13 and 14 for the big, list that you were talking about earlier in the show. But this is where it started to go to where I'm like, it's not as fun for me when I don't have the red football man. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, and I think that's fair. I mean, there were certainly times where dealing with recruiting could be tedious. Again, I go back to the fact that you have not played a new version of this game as a parent, where you feel like, okay, I've only got an hour, I don't want to do the recruiting, blah, blah, blah. But that sort of, I don't know. I mean, I don't know what to say, because the little football guy is not going to make or break whether or not you love the game. But it is such even though it only existed for one game, it is such an icon of the series. And I think if you played it the way we did, where you played every single version, like, that's one of those one-year wonder things that really stands out to you.
Absolutely, to me, yeah. I will never forget that guy. And even though the football guy was introduced before, he just wasn't live reacting to your phone calls before. Right. It was just like, hey, here I am, just a live football guy. Call me, which is weird because I never called a lot of footballs in my life until that game came out.
Not even the legendary Sports Illustrated football phone.
I was never lucky enough to get a subscription to Sports Illustrated when it was more than 35 cents for a year, and then get one of those. So,
yeah,
blessed be those who were able to get those. I was not one of them.
Sure.
So, before we get out of here, I just want to say that I think that there were those peaks. 06 was a peak because it was introduced. 07 gave you the calls. But for my money, 08, when they gave you the options to be able to do the multiple different types of pitches, to promise guys things, because that's what you would have to do, right? You promise guys things when you're recruiting. And especially when you get to negative recruiting starting in 2010, like, if those are options that we can keep going forward in the 2023 game, I don't need a whole lot else, because I don't know a lot else other than introducing the flipping of potential recruits. I don't know where else you need to go. I think you're already near the sun.
Yeah, I guess, okay, so these two things may very well be related, but if you add some of the things we've talked about, the flipping of recruits, the changing of rankings, multiple signing days, do you think the motivation there is, and like I said, these may be linked, it may not matter, but do you think the motivation there is, this is such a big part of the way fans follow college football now, we can't not have it in there? Or do you think it is a matter of, this is a chance to improve the recruiting process? This is something that was not even possible the last time we did the game. Which do you think is more important to EA as they think about how they evolve what recruiting is in the college football game?
How do you mean specifically?
Well, I mean, like, what do you think the motivator is to them? Because I wonder if the motivator is
to change, to make adjustments to it.
Yeah, like if
okay.
So the things that we're talking about, right? Like flipping recruits
to include them. Okay.
Yeah, like because the only reason that I ask, because again, for the third time, like I get that they're linked. If they're in the game, that's all that matters. But I think if the motivation is only, hey, this was not part of the last game, I think then it's much more likely to fall on the cutting room floor as they decide what innovations are more important than others.
I think they have a real. I think most people would be happy with the way, like you're mentioning, the Dynasty mode in season recruiting was before. I think a lot of people like that system. That's fine. I just quibble because I think that there is a better way to do it. But if you're going to make it seem different, and I think that they would want to do that because, like we've talked about before, it's been a decade. This wasn't a thing before that was highly, highly publicized and went about, and we never had it in the game. That if you added a couple of elements that weren't there before that you could kind of control within your AI, like flipping of recruits, for example, or the multiple signing periods, which may be a little more difficult unless you made that to where you have to continue to recruit a guy if he could possibly flip for you. Then yeah, I think the motivation would be to give us something we haven't had before and not just to sort of roll out what was out there before.
Yeah.
Because I'll be honest with you, I think when the game comes out, and I've thought about this a lot over the last few months, I think when the game comes out, it's going to be completely unrecognizable from the game before. I think they're putting that much effort into it.
I think that's probably pretty important, particularly in the recruiting realm. Like, I think there are people for whom the off-season stuff and the improvements in that area are going to be more important than the improvements in graphics and gameplay.
Yeah, because like I think there's a lot of already internal. Like we've seen what good graphics are now. Like we know what to sort of kind of expect. Like it's not going. I don't think we're going to get this thing where we're like, man, this is 5 times better than Madden. You know, I don't think it's going to be like this bizarre like uptick in that. But I do think you got to focus on the features if you're going to give that unique experience, and I think that's what they're going to do. You're going to get good graphics, good, hopefully good sound at some point, and then you're also going to get like good features. Like I hope we get the reintroduction of some features, and definitely some polishing of what we have here. So that's it for the recruiting episode, Demetri. But before you sign off, we should make the big reveal that I am the new offensive coordinator for the Georgia State Panthers.
I'm sorry, Arky, put some respect on it. It is the Georgia State University.
I have not gotten that email yet. Okay. Georgia State University. That is what you guys waited 37 minutes to find. So there you go, everybody. I am excited. In fact, I actually, my wife was recording when I got the phone call. And so that's going to be something that I'm going to probably put up on my TikTok first. And this is the first time I've ever said publicly that I have a TikTok. So if you know my name, you know where to find the TikTok. But that video actually happened. My wife happened to be recording my son doing something cute, and I got the call.
Wow.
And buddy, it's a new day, man. It's a new freaking day, brother. So let's go, Panthers.
Our bonus content is videos of Arky playing make-believe.
What do you mean? All right, Demetri, say goodbye to the good people.
Stay tuned to next week, everybody.